Sharing. Okay. Let's see. Trying to reduce this. Slideshow. Okay. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. We are recording this and just wanted to let everyone know. I am Cheryl Noble. I am the Communications and Volunteer Coordinator for Partnership for Age-Friendly Communities. So welcome to today's presentation on peer-to-peer payment and cryptocurrency. So a little bit about PAFC. We are a nonprofit that addresses the needs of older adults. We work with community partners to find solutions that enhance the quality of life as we age in Larimer County. Our key areas of focus are culture of aging, housing, mobility, health and wellness, and even accessing healthy resources. Our work is done with volunteers, so we are grateful for their time and commitment. And if you're interested in working on one of our programs and projects, you can reach out to us at our email address, which is on the screen. So next month in September, our Lunch and Learn will be living with neck and spine issues, and it will be presented by the president of Northern Colorado Medical Society, Dr. Scott Dupar, who is a spine specialist and surgeon, and that's going to be on Thursday, September 10th, so mark your calendar. We're delighted today to have a repeat guest because she was our speaker at our June presentation. If you joined us or saw the recording on scams, Jessica Zawadsky presented on trending scams, and that was well received. And so we wanted to hit another hot topic, which is on peer-to-peer currency, peer-to-peer payment, and also the cryptocurrency. So we welcome Jessica back to our program today. And Jessica has said that you are welcome to ask her questions as she goes along with the presentation. So go ahead. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Cheryl, and everyone. I'm very glad to be back here with you, teaching all about an important topic. Bear with me while we get all of the technology set up. Let's see. Cheryl, can you see my screen?
Yes, it looks good.
Awesome. All right. Well, welcome everybody. And as Cheryl mentioned, thank you for coming to cryptocurrency and peer-to-peer payment methods. My name is Jessica Zawadsky. Cheryl, I'm really impressed that you said it right. No one ever says it right, but thank you for that. And I am here from Elder Watch, Colorado. We are a 20 plus year, I believe we're in our 25th year collaboration between AARP and the Colorado Attorney General's Office. And our programming generally focuses on fraud, scams, and financial literacy. We do a lot in terms of education and community engagement through presentations just like this one, both in person and virtually. We also do community events, which is what's pictured in that picture on the right. That's my team at a shredding event with Canvas Credit Union. We also have webinars and teletown halls, which are like call-in radio shows, as well as a volunteer staffed fraud victim support helpline. So if you or anyone you know has experienced fraud or you get an offer for something, you're not sure if it's too good to be true, you can give us a phone call. Similarly, if you need help finding a particular financial support resource, usually we can help point you in the right direction for that as well. Our phone number is 800-222-4444, select option 2. And you don't have to be an AARP member to call. You also don't have to be 50 or older to call. You can definitely send this information to friends, family, kids, grandkids, whoever. We're here to support everyone. If after this presentation you are curious and want to learn more about any of the topics that we discuss, We have our YouTube page on that slide, youtube.com/AARP Colorado. Lots of information on trending scams, fraud, financial literacy, and some tech stuff as well. Before we jump into it, I do have some disclaimers. Cryptocurrency in particular is very, very, very complicated. And so for the purposes of our discussion, we won't be getting into how it's made, how it's mined, philosophies around it, and whether it's something that's a good idea or a bad idea. People generally feel very strongly about cryptocurrency. Either they think it's the best thing ever, or they think it is garbage. I'm not taking a stance. My job today is to help you learn the basics of what cryptocurrency is and how it shows up in some of the scams that we see here at ElderWatch. On that note as well, we do not provide financial or legal advice. If you need help finding a particular resource that's related to finances, generally we can help you out with that though. And lastly, this presentation is for educational purposes only. I definitely want you to ask questions, but I will ask that you hold them until the end. Oftentimes the questions get answered throughout the presentation, but we will definitely have time for questions at the end. So to start off, we're going to talk about what is cryptocurrency. And as I mentioned before, cryptocurrency is very complicated. So we're just going to look at a very high level overview, which is that cryptocurrency is a digital nutshell. And the way it's created, which is sometimes called being mined, is through complex equations. You can basically think of cryptocurrency as digital money that is not regulated or insured by a central bank. And not unlike other things, cryptocurrency has value because people believe that it has value. Because of this and other factors, cryptocurrency increases and decreases, sometimes very drastically and dramatically in value over a shorter time horizon than other currencies. And as a result, some people think of cryptocurrency as an investment. So if you look at this graph on the right here, this picture is from back in April, but I think this is a great example of what I mean by those price swings. So that y-axis, the dollar amounts, they're going up and down by the 10,000s. So this was in April. So between April 2026 and April 2025, the value of cryptocurrency, of Bitcoin specifically, changed by over $12,000. So each of those little spikes, is a couple thousands of dollars. And so it moves very, very quickly. And as a result, sometimes people will try to use it or try to, use it as an investment, but it's very complicated and the timing of it can really result in you losing a lot of money. Now, I do have a quick video on some of the very basics of cryptocurrency. So I'm going to put that on quickly. Cheryl, if we can't hear it, I know we tested it, but if we can't hear it for whatever reason in the next 5 seconds, please just let me know.
Because it's digital, cryptocurrency has no physical form. You might have seen pictures of Bitcoin and thought this is what cryptocurrency looks like, but it's not. Cryptocurrency has no physical form as it's all online. You can send it, receive it, and use it to buy things, just like regular money. Now, you might ask, what's the difference between cryptocurrency and the money in my digital wallet, like US dollars or euros in my mobile banking app? Well, traditional currencies like the US dollar and euro are controlled by central banks. To send those currencies, you need a bank or payment service. But with cryptocurrency, you can send money directly to your friend without needing a middleman like a bank.
So I think that video is very helpful in succinctly explaining how it works, some of the issues with it, and what it is conceptually. Now, one of the biggest things in what I do that people will ask me about is, how do you know if a cryptocurrency is legitimate or not? And people also often want to know how many cryptocurrencies, legitimate cryptocurrencies, there are. And the answer, honestly, that it's kind of impossible to answer the how many there are question, because at this point it's estimated that there's around 10,000 different legitimate cryptocurrencies, though most of them are kind of niche and obscure with very small communities and limited value. Now, compared to 2009, there was only one cryptocurrency. So we went from one, which was Bitcoin, to now over 10,000. So this industry really exploded. And virtually every day, new cryptocurrencies are created while others fade into obscurity. So because there are so many different types of cryptocurrencies, it's really difficult to keep up with which ones are quote unquote real and which ones aren't. But it's also really important to note that real cryptocurrencies that are legitimate, as well as even the cryptocurrency apps that are associated with them, are still used in fraud and scams. So it's very difficult to keep track of what is legitimate and what is not with this currency. And we'll talk a little bit more about why that is a little bit later on. That said, because I'm sure you want to know anyway, some of the more popular cryptocurrencies that are legitimate are Bitcoin is the biggest one. It was also the first one, Dogecoin, Binance Coin, Solana, and Ethereum. And on the bottom there are kind of pictures of what those logos look like. Though, again, cryptocurrency, as a reminder, does not have any physical form. It is all digital. Now, one of the most important things, particularly around fraud and scams to understand when it comes to cryptocurrency, is crypto ATMs. And they are everywhere, but many people don't realize that they've been walking by them for years. As you can see in these photos, they are often located near a regular ATM in gas stations, convenience stores, even at the local grocery store. So whenever I do this presentation, I tell people next time you go to the grocery store, just go peek over where the ATMs are, or next time you go get gas, same thing. I'm sure you'll find one and it's been there for a long time and you just didn't realize it. Now, crypto ATMs do look like regular ATMs and they operate kind of similarly where you can take money out of the crypto ATM. But the difference is that you can also put physical cash into the crypto ATM as well. So when you go to a regular ATM, you insert your bank card, you enter your PIN, and you can take out physical cash. But with a crypto ATM, you can both add physical cash to a digital wallet and you can withdraw physical cash from the crypto ATM as well. And so this is an example of what a cryptocurrency digital wallet looks like. Usually you will need to use this if you are going to the crypto ATM, but you can also use it to do cryptocurrency transactions online. So when it comes to cryptocurrency scams, we are increasingly seeing cryptocurrency involved in a number of scams. And one of the biggest reasons is that it's not regulated. It's really difficult to track down if a scam has occurred. There are some protections, which we'll get into at the very end of the presentation, but it's also not really understood. So at this point, many people have heard the message of if somebody asks you to pay for something with a gift card, it's probably a scam. People haven't necessarily heard that message with cryptocurrency because people don't necessarily know what it is. It is very, very, very complicated. And so kind of two of the main ways that these scams work is somebody will ask you to pay for something in cryptocurrency, and often they'll ask you to put money into a crypto ATM, or sometimes you'll be asked to invest in a fake cryptocurrency. And then with that one, when you try to take your money out of that fake cryptocurrency account, when you try to cash out, they usually keep hitting you with junk fees that keep coming, or the website goes down, and then you never hear from the person who initially was telling you about the offer. So for cryptocurrency and for peer-to-peer payments, I have two examples from the helpline that help to illustrate how cryptocurrency can work within scams. And this first example is tied to a romance scam. So in this scam, our caller met a woman online, and after talking for a few months, she said she wanted to get married to the caller, and the caller decided he wanted to marry her as well. The woman told the caller that her uncle was a cryptocurrency investment broker and said that he could help the caller make money. The woman also told our caller that her uncle would cover losses up to 90%. So the caller invested $600,000. Shortly after that, he was told that he needed to increase the investments by 5 due to market fluctuations, which, as you saw in our Bitcoin example with that graph, it can really fluctuate very quickly and by a lot. So this didn't really raise any suspicions with him. Shortly after our caller increased his investment, he realized it was a scam because he never heard from the woman again. She had blocked him on all platforms, and the crypto website that he had put that investment into also went down. Now, unfortunately, this is becoming pretty common for us as a type of scam, type of call that we get on the helpline, and especially related to romance scams, which are already awful and already so emotionally and financially devastating. And scammers like to use cryptocurrency because, as I mentioned, it often lacks the same types of protections that things like credit and debit cards have. And because it's relatively new and not that many people understand it super, super well, or if they've heard of it, they've only heard that somebody got super rich on it, it has a little bit of an allure and a mystery, and that might lead people to take a risk when they might not have otherwise. Now, with this type of scam specifically, where it does have an investment component, one of the big red flags is that the woman said that her uncle would cover those losses up to 90%. Investing inherently always carries risk, and a broker will not offer to cover your losses, let alone for 90%, let alone with cryptocurrency, which again is so volatile. So let's look at one more scam, and then we'll get into peer-to-peer payment methods. So next I want to talk about imposter business/government scams, which are kind of what they sound like. So imposter business and government scams are when a scammer impersonates a business or a government entity, a government agent, federal agent, that type of thing. Often they want information, often they want money, most of the time they want both. So we are increasingly seeing cryptocurrency being used in these types of scams. So in this scam, our caller received a call and then text messages from someone claiming to be a U.S. Marshal. They said that the DEA had her personal details appear in an investigation, and she was told to withdraw $28,000 from her bank account and to put the money into a Bitcoin ATM to keep herself and her finances safe. She did so, and unfortunately, she wiped out her savings. So it's important with all of these to recognize some of the common threads between all scams. So one of the common threads that is a common red flag with this scam in particular is that the government is not going to ask you to pay for anything in cryptocurrency, and neither will most businesses. So if you get that type of request, it's a tip off that it's probably a scam. Additionally, the government is probably not going to be texting you, especially with something this sensitive and this multi-agency investigation. So now that we've talked about cryptocurrency, let's talk about peer-to-peer payment methods. And I'm going to start with examples because oftentimes people have heard of the big players in this industry and they just didn't realize that it was a peer-to-peer payment method. So some of the most common companies for peer-to-peer payments are PayPal, Apple Pay, Venmo, Cash App, and Zelle, though you sometimes can do things besides peer-to-peer payments with these companies. So for example, you can use Apple Pay to buy things at the grocery store. You can use PayPal to sometimes pay for something online in installment payments. They're not all only peer-to-peer payment method apps, but they do have the peer-to-peer payment component. Okay, so what actually is peer-to-peer payments? Peer-to-peer payments, or we call them P2P, is a payment method that allows consumers to send money from their bank account, debit card, or credit card through a single website or mobile app. So this allows consumers to use one centralized vehicle to send money to friends, family, and in some cases, make purchases. So if you think about it like your wallet, instead of having to swipe, having a Visa card, having a MasterCard, having a credit union card, it's like all of those are combined into one card and you can choose the funding source. Sometimes you can also get a physical card that's attached to your peer-to-peer payment account. So for example, let's say that I send my brother $50 on Venmo for his birthday. If he has that Venmo physical credit card, he doesn't have to deposit the money from Venmo into his bank account or anywhere else. He can just swipe it right away. Conceptually, peer-to-peer payment methods are very similar to cash. Just like cash, peer-to-peer payments are instantaneous. So it's almost like the same thing as if you hand me a $5 bill, now I have the $5 bill. Also like cash, peer-to-peer servicers are not necessarily required to help you recover stolen funds or fraudulently spent funds. And it's often really, really, really difficult to get money back from a peer-to-peer payment method servicer if there's a scam, but also if there's not a scam. I have a friend, her Venmo username is like Kathy121. I accidentally Venmoed Kathy122. It was only $15. It's been 2 years. I still haven't gotten my $15 back. So that's not necessarily a scam, that's user error, but I like to highlight that one as an example of how difficult it can be to get the money back once you have sent the money. And peer-to-peer payments can be great in certain contexts. So for example, let's say that you are out to dinner with a group of friends. And so instead of splitting the bill 10 different ways, having the restaurant break it all up, you can just have one person pay for the meal and then everyone can Venmo them. If they are using Venmo, then they automatically have all that money back in their account before you've even finished dessert. So peer-to-peer payments can be really, really helpful and convenient, but we recommend only using them with people that you know, because when we use them with other people is when things can get a little dicey. A question that I often get is how are peer-to-peer payment methods different than other ways of sending people money? And one of the main differences is that you pretty much can only do it through your phone or a website. Another huge difference is that they are instantaneous. Once you send it, it's gone, and that they have very little in terms of customer service and fraud support. Compared to wire transfers tend to cost more than peer-to-peer payment method fees. Depending on which funding source you're using to send someone money, it might be free to send somebody money. And then if you're using a credit card, there's usually a fee associated with it, but that fee is still usually less than it would be if you were doing a wire transfer. Wire transfers generally go bank to bank, whereas with the peer-to-peer payment method, you can use whatever funding source you want. And then lastly, wire transfers generally take a little bit longer than peer-to-peer payments. Wire transfers usually take a little bit longer than peer-to-peer payments because, again, peer-to-peer payments are instantaneous. Once you send someone that money, it's deducted from your account and it is put into their peer-to-peer payment app. Peer-to-peer payments are also different than bank transfers. Generally, with a bank transfer, you have to have some information about the person that you're spending money to. For example, you might need to know their banking and routing numbers. Whereas with peer-to-peer payment apps, you only need to know somebody's phone number, somebody's username, sometimes their email. You need very little information to send someone money. Bank transfers are generally more protected than peer-to-peer payment methods are. And again, they usually take longer. So very similar to cryptocurrency, peer-to-peer payment methods themselves are not a scam, but they are increasingly used in a lot of different types of scams. Many of them we see take place on online marketplaces like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. So in this example, our caller was trying to sell a desk on Facebook Marketplace, and they got somebody who wanted to buy it. The would-be purchaser told our caller that they would need to send the money through Venmo, and then they said that they were going to send her $1,000 because if they didn't send this large amount, the transaction wouldn't work. So the scammer or the buyer says that they sent it, consumer didn't get it, but the buyer insisted that they sent it and that the caller now owed them $1,000. Now, this is a pretty common scam involving peer-to-peer payments. Sometimes the scammer will overpay an individual. Sometimes they'll claim that they sent money or that they didn't, or that they didn't receive something that a caller already sent to them. Or sometimes, like in this story, they'll make up a weird story about why you need to pay them. So in this case, this story doesn't actually make sense with how peer-to-peer payments work. But if you don't know enough about them, which a lot of scammers are betting on, it might be easy to experience this type of scam and not really think twice about what they're saying. Employment scams also use peer-to-peer payments, though, as I mentioned before, a lot of different types of scams do. And so in this scam, a caller was on Facebook. They saw an ad about a craft fair, and the ad was selling booths on a website. Our caller went to the website, got in touch with the person who said they were selling these booths for the craft fair, and ended up paying for a booth at the craft fair through Zelle. Unfortunately, this woman found out that this was a scam when there was no craft fair and the webpage disappeared. And so again, one of the reasons that the scammer would have asked for these peer-to-peer payments is that it's really difficult to get this money back. And in this case, our caller did not get her money back, unfortunately. Which leads me to a question that I get all the time, which is, can I get my money back? And the answer is, it depends. So in Colorado, or rather state by state, different states are passing initiatives to protect people from cryptocurrencies, especially when it's such a new thing that not everyone understands very well. And there's not protections for all types of fraud involving cryptocurrencies, but there are, as of right now, certain protections specifically around crypto ATMs. So the law in Colorado is called the Colorado Vending of Digital Assets Act, and it passed last year. There is my team with one of the sheriff's departments who also works on these fraud cases around cryptocurrency. And this law requires disclosures on virtual kiosks to, or excuse me, it requires disclosures to be placed on virtual kiosks, which are those crypto ATMs. Requires that they provide receipts, and it does offer a path to reimbursement if fraud has occurred, though it's only within a certain period of time. When it comes to peer-to-peer payment methods, unfortunately, there's not really that many protections. So because these payments are instantaneous, you generally can't cancel them. So in the example I gave where I was off by one number and Venmoing my friend, I had already sent the money, even though I had just sent it, I can't cancel it. That's the beauty and the terror, I guess, in them is that it is instantaneous. I also pulled a quote from Venmo themselves, which says, when you send a payment on Venmo, the money will be sent to the recipient right away. There isn't a way to cancel a payment once it's sent. So again, really great if you know the person that you're sending it to and it is a safe transaction. Not so great if you're sending money to somebody that you've never met before. Now, technically, these platforms do have support teams, but whether or not they can help you is another story. That said, in rare cases, you may be able to work with the bank or the credit card company or whichever financial product institution you are using to send that money in the first place. Sometimes they can help you, but it's definitely in rare cases. And generally, peer-to-peer payment platforms are very difficult to get your money back from. And that's a wrap for me. Let me stop sharing. Any questions?
Thank you, Jessica.
My
Lynette,
pleasure.
I've used Venmo just a handful of times,
Mhm.
but there is somebody else. So when I go onto Venmo, there's somebody else, and I know this person. I know who she is. I'll see all kinds of purchases or exchanges between she and somebody else. So if I'm using Venmo, does everybody else see what I have done?
That's a great question. So, y potentially. So when you
Okay.
send a transaction on Venmo, there is an option where you can select kind of who sees it. So you can select to make it public, you can select to make it private, you can select to make it viewable only to your friends. So it sounds like and it varies for each purchase. So it's like you can't just set it as a default, at least at this point in time. So next time you go to make a purchase, I believe it's in the bottom right corner. I mean, I should just pull it up right now. I believe it's in the bottom right corner, where you'll be able to see that icon. And so I I don't know. Some people like it when everybody can see
I
them.
yeah, that that freaks me out if that I'm making a transaction and everybody in the world could see it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Um, okay, I'm trying to see where it is.
So do
Okay.
I have to be making actually using the app to make a purchase, or can I just go and make that change on my own
So
without?
you have to, and I just went to test it on my own. So after you hit pay, um, you'll see like right above your funding source, there's like on my end, it's like a little globe that says public. And so if you click that little globe, it'll say who can see this? And so it'll give you the option of public, friends, or private. But you have to change it every time you make a transaction.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I wonder if it stays like in a default because I know I have mine private and I don't do it every time
Mhm.
and believe they remain private. So
Oh, well, that's good.
it
Maybe there
may
was an
be,
app update then.
yeah, or
'Cause I
maybe if
tried to
you
do it
like
before and it didn't.
have set it somewhere, or maybe I need to keep a better eye. I don't know. I'll look.
Yeah.
I do have another question along with that. I'm an author, and
Mhm.
sometimes people will pay for the book through
Mhm.
Venmo. What do I need to be aware of as the receiver? Anything in particular?
The danger is definitely much more on the end of the payer. Um, that's a really good question. What should you be aware of as the receiver? I will get back to you on that because
Okay.
generally we are warning people who are sending the money, not receiving the money. And
Mhm.
one of the scams that we will get is not with peer-to-peer payments, but somebody will think that they got a job. The job will send them a check. The check bounces, and then their account goes into the negative. Since the peer-to-peer payment apps don't really have that type of support. It's not something that we really see on them. So I'm going to get back to you with some more concrete answers, and I'll send them to Cheryl because it's definitely much more danger on the sender's end.
Well, the thing I guess I was wondering is if somebody sends me, does that in any way give them access to my bank account?
No. And so that's like, I guess, kind of a nice thing, right? Is so because all they need is your name,
Huh?
um, it's kind of like in that slide with the bank transfers and wire transfers, they don't have any other information about you.
Okay.
They only have your username or your phone number or whatever it is.
Okay. Thank you. This is so helpful. Thank
Oh,
you.
good. I'm so glad.
I will tell you guys, I did go into my Venmo and I clicked on privacy, and there is a default privacy setting. So you can probably change it per individual transaction if you wanted, but mine is clicked for private. And so
Great.
maybe as a default, it's always private, but you would maybe per transaction have the ability to additionally change it. So it's good to know that there is a default.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
definitely
Thanks for
worth,
checking.
I think, because I hadn't heard about that one, so I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did have a question. I did a transaction with someone. Now, this was a few years ago, so I just wondered if it was different. But they had a business,
Mhm.
and they mentioned that they were using PayPal because Venmo didn't have the same like payback protections, or I'm not sure exactly the name of it. But I
Yeah.
didn't know if each individual peer-to-peer payment method, if they all are a little bit different maybe in, their ability to get money back or that type of thing. Do you have to keep an eye on that as well?
So they definitely all are different. And so PayPal is special, I guess, because PayPal does lots of other stuff too.
Mm.
And so, like for example, I used PayPal. I was buying something. I was buying a plant on Etsy, what was it? It doesn't matter, like a house plant. And it wound up being a scam. And so because PayPal is not just peer-to-peer, they have different protections. But the ones that are pretty much purely peer-to-peer, so like Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, are not really doing anything else besides peer-to-peer transactions. So they don't have the same, they don't have the same protections. Does that make sense?
So you're saying PayPal would be better, more because it has more protection?
I'm not allowed to endorse any particular. um,
Well, if we between all the choices, never
I
mind.
mean, I think it depends, right? So like if you so for example, I think like if you're using it like with the dinner example or like if you're going to the movies or whatever, so one of them might be like faster than the other, or like if somebody already like has one and doesn't have the other one and doesn't want to download a new thing and like it might, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of factors that go into like which one is best. But I will say that because PayPal does other things, not just peer-to-peer payments, they
Mhm.
operate a little differently. If that does that
Okay,
make sense?
sure. Yeah, because
Okay.
I have a PayPal account that I use for my business.
Exactly.
And
So,
okay,
yeah, so there's different, they are all a little bit different. But PayPal specifically does things besides peer-to-peer payments, so they're set up a little bit differently. But I
okay,
would say for like Venmo, PayPal, or not PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, they are pretty much strictly peer-to-peer payment apps or like companies. So they're a little bit different than PayPal. I hope I didn't talk too much and make things more confusing.
no, no,
Okay,
it's all helpful.
Yeah.
cool.
And I did on the part about getting money back, I did have a situation with Venmo where I misspelled my
Yep.
nephew's name, and so it went to the wrong person, and I
Mhm,
didn't discover it until a little bit later.
mhm,
I was able to, and it was only $10, so it wasn't a huge amount, but I did reach out to them and they did ask questions, who were you trying to pay? Who did you pay? And I had to provide a
mhm.
little bit of information. And for whatever reason, they did refund me
Oh my gosh, that's great.
the $10. So that was exciting. I don't know if that person hadn't like deposited it or what the rationale was or
Yeah.
how, but I did have a successful um, remedy for a mistake that I made in um, a peer-to-peer payment. So that was good.
Honestly, that's like I don't think I've heard that like more than a handful of times. So I'm really happy that it worked out for you. And yeah, I would also be curious if it was like not already spent or not already transferred, and whether like that had something to do with it. But we unfortunately have many, many, many people have the opposite story. So I'm really happy that that worked for you though.
Yeah,
So
and so I guess the question would be, don't be afraid to try.
Oh, of
Certainly,
course,
if
of
it's
course.
legit, even if it's difficult, because
Yeah,
it did have a success.
So,
absolutely.
so Christy, were you able to reach a real person at Venmo? There was a customer support person.
I think I did it through chat.
Ah,
I think it was like chatting on
Yeah,
the app.
yeah.
I don't think I spoke directly. Because I remember like I had to, type in like, well, what was the username of the mistake? What was the username of the person? And um and things like that. So I think it was through chat. I don't think I
oh,
spoke to a person, but I chatted
Yeah.
digitally.
I
yeah,
had
that.
it happen. I had it happen the opposite way. I was selling two toilets on Marketplace, and a man wanted to buy them. He was in Wyoming. And I said, I've got somebody else who's interested. And he said, if I send you money right now, will you hold them? And I went, sure. Well, he typed in the wrong information when he was sending to me. And, I called him back right away. And but he called his bank, and the bank said it was going to take something like 2 weeks for him to get his money back.
But I'm glad the bank stepped up, because usually banks like kind of says, they have like larger teams and they kind of like deal with that thing more regularly.
hmm
So yeah, obviously that is awful for him. But yeah.
Well,
So that's like if you can't get through to like customer service or like if the chat bot or whatever isn't working, that's what we recommend doing next is trying to contact your bank.
there have been, and you mentioned it in your presentation, which was the overpayment issue, which is typically a scam. So I would say keep alert on that.
Mhm.
If someone asks to overpay you or says, well, I'll pay you for this, and then, I want everything in one transaction, and then if you could just, usually that ends up being a
Mhm.
scam. And so just keep alert of, I guess, incorrect amounts. And I was
Mhm.
thinking, Lynette, you might have said that that person would be like, oh, well, I'll pay you a little more.
Oh
But
no,
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 yeah.
he really wanted them, and I said, I've got somebody else who's supposed to show up tomorrow with to pick him up, and he said, well, if I give you the money for it through Venmo, will you hold them for me? And I went, okay, but yeah, it got kind of pretty muddied up with him sending
Yeah.
it to the wrong place.
Yeah.
So Jessica, is it sounds like it's the safest route is if you are sending directly to a family or friend and assuming you spell their name correctly, that there's very little, that's where there's very little um, opportunity for scams to happen. I mean, the way the system is set up and the intention of it to send directly to somebody into their account, if you do that correctly, just one person to the other, and it's legit, then nobody can no hackers online can intercept your IP address while it's going through or anything. That's pretty safe, and that's
That's
the
a good
easiest.
question.
It's a great question. Unfortunately, it's one that's really tricky to answer in part because all of these companies have had data breaches, right? Like,
Yeah,
so I can't like guarantee because there's lots of other things that go into. So like for example, like what Wi-Fi are you using when you do this? Like there's lots of other things that can like compromise your internet safety, if that
yeah.
makes sense. But
Mhm.
in terms of like the safest like way to do peer-to-peer payments, we always recommend with people that you know, with friends and family only. I will also say that one of the ways, because now we've all kind of shared stories about making a mistake in typing something in, Venmo now has a QR. So every individual on Venmo has their own QR code that you can scan. And so that sometimes makes things a little easier too, since then you can't misspell or anything like that.
Wow.
So does having a VPN or a virtual private network help minimize the chance of IP addresses getting
Yes,
compromised?
VPNs are great, period, full stop. So I would definitely recommend one of those.
Yeah.
I will say that like when we are using our how does this like when we're using our phones, depending on like all of the other things associated with it, we might be compromised in ways we don't expect. So like one of and it's in one of our YouTube videos, but sometimes, so for example, like if you're at the airport or if you're at a grocery store, sometimes a bad guy will set up like a fake Wi-Fi router, or like with public Wi-Fi, it can be much easier to like see what somebody is sending and all of that kind of stuff. So the reason it's difficult to answer your question is because there's so many other pieces that are part of the equation. But yes, VPNs are generally considered to be a great idea for internet safety on your phone and otherwise.
It sounds like public Wi-Fi's are just not a good idea.
Correct.
Okay.
For a number of reasons, like they generally tend to have less security, and it's easier for people who are have nefarious intentions to, I don't want to say like hack your device, but like to see things being sent over them. But then additionally, one of the reasons that they are a danger is, as I mentioned, people setting up fake Wi-Fi's that look like the real Wi-Fi, and then you get onto theirs and then they can get your information. And it's a whole thing. So yeah, generally speaking, public Wi-Fi, especially that doesn't require a password. So like I think like certain like grocery stores or like sometimes the airport, we generally do not recommend using those just from a security perspective.
Is it using them at all, or using them or not using things that when you're doing like transactions? Does that make sense? Or you're not supposed to use them at all?
Like
Like email rather than a financial transaction? Is that what you're saying, Christy?
Yeah,
Or
or
something like that? Yeah.
how do I say this? It's like
kind of like logging into your bank. Maybe you don't want to log into your bank on a public thing, but if you're surfing the web, does it matter the activity?
I would say just like for this, I will speak for myself. I do not use public Wi-Fi at all, like period, full stop. I think that people underestimate, so like email was brought up as an example. I think that people very frequently underestimate how much information is in their email. So like, for example, if you like ever applied to a job, you might have, or like your W-2, like there's lots of personal details that can be in your email. So even if it's not someone necessarily like getting into your bank account, someone getting things like your social security number or answers to security questions, in a lot of cases can damage your life more than somebody getting access to your bank account. So we generally will say just like public Wi-Fi is a bad idea. Now, of course, if there's an emergency or something, that's like a different situation. But it's kind of like a better safe than sorry. So I would say definitely do not use public Wi-Fi for things like bank transactions. But I think if possible, I would avoid it just kind of like in general. Does that answer your question?
Would like being in a hotel and using a hotel Wi-Fi, is that considered like a public Wi-Fi?
So I'm talking about more like when you don't have to enter a password or anything like that. So if you have to,
Like Starbucks? Or I don't know if they have passwords or not, but as an example.
yeah. So like if anybody can get onto it, it's public Wi-Fi. But like in a hotel, not everyone can get onto it. Well, I mean some hotels, but like I like usually or places I've stayed before, you have to enter like your room number and your like last
Right,
name or
okay.
whatever. So I would not say that that's public Wi-Fi. Does that make
I-
sense? Or does that
Yeah,
answer?
that
Okay.
helps.
I think that's where VPNs come in helpful too,
Yeah.
with public Wi-Fi. Although I still wouldn't do banking even with a VPN in an airport at all. But just if you want to snoop social media to pass time away, I think having VPNs are helpful. Although I'm hearing more and more hackers are breaking through those as well. So buyer beware for everything.
Yeah.
But there
And
is a
I
layer
feel
of protection.
like kind of to that point, like we're all trying our best, right? So like hackers and data breaches and like that kind of thing is everywhere. And so I think a lot of times there are steps we can take, like writing your credit report and placing credit freezes and things like that that can preemptively protect you. But it's just like you said, Cheryl, like these things are all evolving so quickly, faster than we have the protections for them. And so
Yeah,
unfortunately,
you set up a protection and they've already figured out how to get through and on to the next thing.
yeah. Which is not to say that, it's not important to take those safety steps. And one of the biggest protections that we have seen is just understanding what to look out for. There's a quote from FINRA, and I wish I had it right off the top of my head, but it's something like 80%. If you know about a certain scam, you're 80% less likely to give money or sensitive information or to engage with it. And if you do engage, you're 40% less likely to lose money or sensitive information. And so just knowledge really is power when it comes to fraud, scams, and protections against those things. Because like, for example, with the cryptocurrency ones that we were talking about, the people involved in our scams were intelligent people. They just didn't already know what to look out for when it came to cryptocurrency scams. And so just coming to a presentation like this could have been very helpful. But yeah, all of these things are evolving very, very quickly. And so I think that makes it even more important to stay up to date on news and protections and legislation and that type of thing.
Well, for this crew, if anybody hasn't yet, I know during COVID, somebody tried to submit unemployment on my social security card.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to the bank, and one of the things they suggested to do as a protection is to put a freeze on all the three different credit bureaus.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to buy something, I have to unlock that credit bureau for a short period of time. So whoever I'm applying to for credit can check it out, and then I freeze it right back up again. So that really helps protect from somebody else and being able to apply for a credit card under my information.
Yeah, I'm so glad that the bank told you that because that's something that a lot of people don't know and they kind of misunderstand how it works because it not only prevents somebody from opening up a new credit card, it stops people from opening up a mortgage or buying a car. Like I've had
Right.
people call me and they have a home loan tied to their social security number and they're like, I don't even live in this state. So credit freezes are so important and I'm so glad that you know about them. And I have a video on that too on our website if you need to learn more or if you don't know what we're talking
Well,
about.
it's a nice peace of mind.
Yeah, I've had credit freezes for years. And I think everybody should have one. Because as you said, they're really easy to unthaw. You just push a button or you can, I mean, you can call them, but it takes a little bit longer. But yeah, it's really easy. And as you said, peace of mind. And I don't know if they told you, but the way that it works in the background is let's say I'm an auto lender and somebody is applying for a line of credit and they're using your social security number and your information. So on my end, I'm going to run a credit report on you to see, your history. And so if you have a credit freeze, it prevents me from running your credit report. And if I can't run your credit report, I'm not going to issue you a line of credit. So that's what's happening on the back end. But yeah, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful tool that we have at our disposal that is very preventative and protective.
Yeah.
Gosh, we covered a lot.
Good.
This has been awesome. Thank you.
Oh,
You too,
good. Yeah,
Cheryl.
sure.
I will
Good to
say,
see your smiling face, girlfriend.
sure, sure. It's good to see everybody here too, and good to see you, Lynette. I, for me, my little takeaway from all this, there was a lot, but I think I'm just going to stay away from cryptocurrency. I'm way behind the curveball on learning it and understanding it, and cash is king for me. I'm happy with that. So just,
Yeah, it's
just
really
keep life
interesting.
simple.
But it's really interesting. And in another presentation I do, one country actually made it like what's it called? Like a transfer, like a usable currency in their country. And it's so interesting because it fluctuates so much every day. So like
Yeah.
if a cup of coffee that was $5 on Monday was like 2 Bitcoins on Monday, it could be 4 Bitcoins on Tuesday, and it could be 20 Bitcoins on Wednesday. Like it just moves so quickly and you can't time the market and the things that impact the changes to the value of cryptocurrency are largely man-made. So I also am not involved in cryptocurrency, but I know people who are, and I am just not willing to take on that level of risk because you might
Right.
have, like Bitcoin. I have in another presentation, like one day or let's say like June of one year, it was $9. And then in like November, it was $300. And then in March, it was $12. Like they're all very volatile. So I
Pretty
don't, I
hard
don't,
to plan your financial picture. I mean, you've got that kind of a roller
yeah,
coaster.
absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, gosh, we appreciate you coming back again, Jessica.
Thank you for having me, and you know how to
Sure.
reach me if there's anything
Yes,
else you want to talk about.
yes, we just
Well,
may do
thank
that.
you all, and
Sure. Thank you, everyone. So everyone be well and be safe and beware of scams. So take care.
bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.